Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we're talking about Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I'm going to talk about both of them in this video. Definitely see the drop of quality now. Although for me, it's not quality of the production, it's quality of the storyline and the direction of the franchise. I'm going to try to not harp on too much stuff that I've heard, which is not to say that everything I say will be original thought, but, the stuff that's been talked to death, I don't really want to just say the same things that I've heard other people say. My biggest question for Jurassic World is, how did this become an actual park? And I want to be clear here. The fact that people know that it's dangerous and it still became a park, that's not what I am hung up on. The fact that people have seen multiple examples of it being a bad idea and still gone forward with it, that's not what I'm hung up on. The fact that people know what a dangerous place it would be to visit is, but still people are going, that's not what I'm hung up on. All of those I've heard other people talk about as problems before, but that stuff happens in real life, right? Theme parks are dangerous in real life, and people still go to them, and people do other things that are dangerous, even though they know that they're dangerous. So the logic of the characters is not what I'm hung up on. What I'm hung up on is, how did they actually get there? Because the first movie, we saw them try and fail. It's not about, whether they were right or wrong to try to do it. It was that it functionally was not possible because they underestimated so many things. Second movie, again, they tried and failed. Third movie, bit of a detour. But then we get to the fourth movie and the park just exists. But we don't know how they actually went about developing that. So to me, that is a huge hole in the storytelling, to just gloss over all of that, how they actually made it happen, how they got investors in after the disaster from the last one, how they got experts to sign off on it like they probably needed to do. How did they do all of that? Because clearly they still haven't solved the problems from the first movies, because those same problems happen again. That's my big issue. Not that it did happen, not that people did make stupid decisions, but how, from A to B, how did we go from 2 failures to a fully functioning park? That's where I'm lost. Along the same lines, how does Engine still have money? How many times does John Hammond say in the first movie, we spared no expense, we spared no expense? Millions of dollars sunk into that. That gets washed away. Then in the second movie, he talks about how they've been on the verge of bankruptcy for a long time, but yet the company still puts a lot of money into this new project, which also fails. How do they still have the money to make these things happen? I need to see how that process goes. So to me, the very conceit of this movie, taking the existence of this theme park as a given, is not coherent with the previous movies in the franchise if they don't tell me how we got there. So it's hard for me to even accept this movie as a concept, because it is completely in opposition to what we've seen before. Another big issue, and this one I have heard other people talk about, but I have to at least mention it here, is that Bryce Dallas Howard, Claire, mentions that no one is interested in dinosaurs anymore. And take away the fact that it's, dinosaurs, who would get bored of dinosaurs, blah, 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 blah. In the real world, she basically says that they're on the same level as a zoo. But zoos exist. And zoos still maintain people's interest. So if people are still, after decades and I don't know how long zoos have been around, as opposed to a sideshow, a traveling show, right? But like, zoos have been around for decades at the very least, and they still hold people's interest, and they're still successful, and they still make money, and those have not previously extinct animals. So again, we have this idea that is said but not explained, that is integral, I can't speak, that is extremely important to the plot of the movie, but I can't wrap my head around that. I can't accept that as real in this world, because it just doesn't make sense. And, people now in the real world are still obsessed with dinosaurs when they're not living creatures that you can go and see. So how does adding that make people lose interest? It doesn't make sense. So we have two huge pillars of this story, neither of which can logically follow from what we've seen. So that makes it hard for me to get invested into the logic of the story. I was more focused on how many comic book movie actors were in the movie, because I wasn't engaged in the story. I wasn't sucked into the world, because these things just took me out of it. My last question for Jurassic World is, where does Claire come from? How did she get to the position that she's in? Because I assumed that she would just be another family member of the Hammonds, like in the Lost World. Or, somehow descended from them. And like, the other characters that are involved seem like they somehow knew John Hammond or worked with John Hammond, but she seems like she didn't. So where did she come from? How did she get this position? What makes her qualified to run this park? I have no idea. She doesn't contribute anything like the other characters did and have in past movies. She's just put in there. See, this is the first Jurassic Park movies. They focused on character, and specifically the character's relationship with dinosaurs. Right? John Hammond had these very big ideas about dinosaurs and then created them to make that happen. Alan, I can't remember his last name now. Grant? One of the main characters, right? He had an appreciation for dinosaurs as an archaeologist, which became a caution, a fear, and a certain kind of respect for them after interacting with them. Ian Malcolm didn't have a relationship with dinosaurs per se before the events, but he was focused on chaos theory and unpredictability, and his experience strengthened his concerns, right? So it's all about the characters, their relationship to these core events, and then how those events changed or strengthened their thoughts and their ideas and their beliefs. But here we have Claire, who has no relationship with dinosaurs and no reason for being there, but it's because Bryce Dallas Howard is a popular actress. We have Chris Pratt, who's a trainer of these animals, but they say he was in the Navy. How do those things correlate to each other? We don't see how or why he started training animals. We don't understand what he believes about them. He seems to flop back and forth throughout the movie between saying, no, you can't kill them, they're animals, and you have to kill this thing or else it's going to kill humans. Is that just what the ones that he's trained he wants to keep safe, and the ones that he hasn't trained he doesn't care about? That's not clear. So we don't understand his backstory. We don't understand his motivations. And then we have all these corporate guys who are just corporate guys that have no relationship with dinosaurs. So it's stopped becoming about the characters and their relationship with dinosaurs, and it's just become movie stars in a big movie franchise. And so we don't have that story there anymore. And then when we get to the dinosaurs, instead of being the vehicle for a character arc throughout the movie, now it's just a vehicle to show how great CG is now. And so we get these huge, long, extended fight scenes between dinosaurs that don't serve the story. It's just for the visuals. And that's why this franchise is dying. Because it used to be a franchise about characters and their arc. And now it's a franchise about movie stars and CGI. And we have enough of that. What makes that special? What makes these movies special if it's not about the dinosaurs anymore and how it affects the people? So then we get into Fallen Kingdom. And let's see. We have this big conflict of some people in the world want to save the dinosaurs from the volcano. Some people want to let them die. It's again, because I'm unable to get sucked into this world because the concept makes no sense and there are so many logical fallacies. I'm having trouble understanding why the people in this world, why any people in this world want to go out of their way to save these dinosaurs. And I'm also trying to think, if something like this happened in the real world, would there be a large group of people that wanted to save them? And the easy answer is yes, because you take any issue in the real world and there's going to be two opposing groups of people about what to do about it, because that's just how we are. We can't agree on anything. But because we don't know how in this world, how we got from the Lost World to Jurassic World, we don't know what that process was. We don't know what events happened in the world. We don't know what events the public is aware of. Are they still unaware of what happened in Jurassic Park? Because it seemed like in 2 and 3 that Ian Malcolm was the only one that ever talked up about that and that nobody believed him. So if the people don't know what happened there, they only know about the incident in San Diego, which by comparison was pretty small. It was just one T-Rex, right? I can see how people would be less informed about what these dinosaurs actually are. But the dinosaurs, they're not animals that are part of nature. They're not part of the natural order. They're not part of the natural ecosystem. They're genetic experiments. It's not even real dinosaurs. It's not real DNA. It's experiments spliced together with other experiments to make an attraction. Would people still care about that? To an extent, that's what dog breeding is, right? But that's still at least breeding. They're not creating them in labs and birthing them from nothing. So I don't know. I really don't know how people would react, but it feels, as a viewer, it feels like the people in the world are uninformed about what those creatures actually are. But again, it's hard to tell because they haven't built up this world that we're in now. They just took a giant leap in logic from the earlier movies to these movies. So it's hard to say how people might actually respond. But to me, I think about, bees versus wasps, right? Nobody likes bees and nobody likes wasps. But bees, people understand that they're a vital part of the ecosystem, that there's a lot of things that would be affected if bees went away, right? So we've got the Save the Bees movement. People are concerned about the bees. But wasps are just jerks. They're not vital to the ecosystem. Nobody likes wasps. And I feel like if wasps were on the verge of extinction, most people wouldn't care, right? I don't think there would be a big movement to save the wasps. Wasps is a very weird word to say over and over again. So you take these dinosaurs, again, they're not part of a natural ecosystem. They're not naturally existing because they were genetically modified and created in a lab. And they're not beneficial to the earth. They're not part of the global community. So I don't know. What else did I write down? At one point, what's his name? Ben Lockwood. He says, this was all John Hammond's dream. This was all John Hammond's dream. To let these creatures live in peace. That wasn't John Hammond's dream. John Hammond's dream was to put these characters on display for amusement. Why are we retconning a character that hasn't been in the last 3 movies? Last 2 movies. He was in 2, but not in 3. I don't know. I don't understand why. And this isn't super essential to the plot, so I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. It's just, why do these things? Why try to go back and retcon and change things that don't actually affect the story moving forward? Because it's just distracting. My next note says you'd think people would learn to vet their contractors. Because, once again, we have people that are outsourcing and paying other people to do certain things, and then, they're actually doing something else, which has been happening since the first movie. And I know it's not all the same characters, but again, you would feel... Because we didn't see how we got from Lost World to Fallen Kingdom, we don't know what that process was like. But you'd think, if you know what happened in Jurassic Park, and you know what happened in Lost World, you'd think you'd understand, oh wow, when we're dealing with dinosaurs, shady people tend to get involved and can hide and mask and disguise who they're actually working for, so we need to be better about this. But nope, because we skipped over that whole process, we're still making the same mistakes. We're not learning as characters, we're not learning, Engine is not learning as a corporation. And so, we're not going anywhere. The story is not progressing. And then my last note is, so she's a clone. The little girl is a clone. Which at first, I was like, fine, okay, whatever. But then, because I'm not invested in the story, I'm just thinking about other things. It's the Clark Kent question, right? So did she go to school? Did he have adoption papers fabricated, birth certificates, social security number? Like, does she know anybody? Has she just been in this house her whole life and has never been exposed to other social, children in social settings? Has she ever gone to school? She seems pretty well adjusted, so you'd think that she had somewhat of a normal life. Was she born when they cloned her? Was she cloned as a baby and grew up? Or did they clone her 2 weeks ago and she was just created this age, but she thinks she has these false memories? Again, really, really, really big monkey wrench to throw into the story for no apparent reason. Maybe it's part of the next movie. Maybe it's part of Dominion, but I don't recall anything about that in the trailers. So it's just another example of people throwing stuff in and it not leading to anything, it not going anywhere, and not explaining how we got to that point. We're just supposed to accept it as that's how this world works, and it's just, now we got 3 of those. 3 big pillars that I can't wrap my head around. I think about zoos a lot. And zoos are a contradiction for me. Because I understand that in many, many ways, zoos are bad. They're bad for the animals, and they're bad for, the planet, because then other people want to go get their own animals, and it's not their natural environment, and they're not where they should be, and I get all that, but I really like going to the zoo. I enjoy zoos a lot, even though in concept, I think they're a bad idea. that doesn't really have anything to do with these movies. But again, I'm not getting invested into the world, so these are the things I'm thinking about. And now I'm sad and depressed on behalf of elephants and giraffes instead of caring about what happens to Claire and Owen. So, not looking forward to the new one all that much. Especially since I've heard it's even worse than these ones. But we'll check it out at some point. That's going to do it for this, though. I'm just whining and moping now. So, those are my thoughts on Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Feel free to fire back if you have rebuttals to my points or your own points to make. Let me know what you think in the comments. But that's what I got. So, thank you for watching, and have a good day.